A years-long legal saga ends less than a minute. That's today's top story on this 11 a.m. Fastcast. WIFR's Nathaniel Langley just got back from a courtroom conclusion between the city of Rockford and the landlord of Versailles Apartments. Let's throw it over to him now. Nathan?
Hey Jake, yeah, I just got back, and even though this court case started, like you mentioned, about 3 years ago, I don't have a timer on me, I didn't have one in the courtroom, but I would assume that this case, or today's session, lasted about less than a minute. But what tenants heard was pretty exciting, in their words. There were about 3 or 4 tenants of Versailles Place in that courtroom today, and what we heard from a City of Rockford attorney was that a settlement was reached between the city and Illinois Fastcast Property, which oversees Versailles Place, as well as some folks might remember Windsor Apartments. But this case focused on code violations at Versailles Place, specifically a lot of elevator issues, not functioning or not reliable, concrete repairs for sidewalks, you had fire alarm code violations. Now, some of these have been fixed in recent years, but in other cases, especially with what we've heard from interviewing tenants over the last couple of weeks, was especially the elevators. There's a lot of seniors or people who rely on a wheelchair in this building, and they say that without a functioning elevator, it's unsafe for them to live there, especially if there were worst case scenario fire, anything like that to break out. So what we have with this settlement, from what we know so far, is that the City of Rockford secured this settlement and a judge will force these code violations to be fixed. Now, a timeline here. We're looking at maybe, from what a city attorney was telling tenants, maybe we'll see these repairs by October. We'll maybe potentially get elevator repairs starting in July, and that's due to lack of contractor availability here in town. But a timeline looks like we're going to first focus on elevator repairs, then so on into concrete repairs. I know some folks might be mentioning or questioning where this $100,000 fine placed against Illinois Fastcast Properties might be going. Well, the city attorney was telling tenants that that was actually a separate issue. That was some administrative hearing through the City of Rockford, but with this court order, that should also be paid as well from Fazio to the City of Rockford. We reached out to Illinois Fastcast Property and Joe Fazio, the landlord's legal representative, his attorney. Haven't heard back just yet. We also just reached out to the City of Rockford as well. Haven't heard back from them as well, but we'll be looking into this more today, Jake.
Yes, absolutely. Nathan, thank you so much for giving us that coverage there from the courtroom. And of course, just like what Nathan was saying, we will be keeping you guys updated here on the air, as well as on our website and on the WIFR News app. All you got to do to download that is go to WIFR.com to find all those links. And of course, we're available on those smartphones, those smart TVs as well. Turning back to some of our top headlines here this morning, a Winnebago County jury finds 23-year-old Corian Young guilty of killing Krishawn Arnold. In September 2020, Rockford police were called to a shooting in the 500 block of Webster Avenue. Officers would find Arnold in the 1900 block of Elm Street, and he would later die at a local hospital. Investigators determined Young shot Arnold after the two argued over a stolen gun. He's set to be back in court May 15th and faces decades in prison. 47-year-old Merle Prasak is in custody, accused of shooting a gun several times. Deputies are sent after 10 Tuesday evening to the 3000 block of West Oregon Trail Road. Deputies say there was a disturbance that led to that shooting. Prasak was later arrested and must appear in court. This just in here, Loves Park police look into how a car hit a UPS building Thursday. You can see that damage to the window there on Windsor Road in Loves Park. Now, we do not know if anyone was hurt or if any charges will be filed in this situation, but we will be keeping you up to date when more information comes into the newsroom. Moving to some of our national headlines now, a disagreement over Israeli attacks in Lebanon is putting the fragile ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran in jeopardy. Talks for a more negotiated deal are still set for this weekend in Pakistan with Vice President J.D. Vance, and senior envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are expected to attend. The Israeli strikes on Iran's proxy in Lebanon have led to a serious crack in that fragile 2-week ceasefire deal, which was announced Tuesday. Iran and Pakistan, who helped broker that deal, insisted it included Lebanon. Israel and the White House disagree. Now, Iran is restricting the passage of oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz in response. And now we'll turn to today's issues segment, and it's an exclusive interview with a true American hero. Perhaps no one living in Rockford is more highly decorated than retired Air Force Major General John Borling, and perhaps no one in Rockford can offer a more unique perspective on the current U.S. conflict with Iran better than the two-time Purple Heart recipient. WIFR Evening News anchor Mike Garrigan sat down with Borling Tuesday afternoon, just before that ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran was announced.
I hate armchair analysts, especially old guys.
But if anyone has earned the right to offer his thoughts on the conflict between the U.S. and Iran, it's retired Major General of the U.S. Air Force, John Borling.
I just want to have value with the conversation that you and I are going to have without trying to be Nostradamus or look into any crystal balls.
Borling served 33 years, winning 2 Purple Hearts, a Silver Star, among many other distinguished service medals. He also was a prisoner of war for 6.5 years alongside the late Senator John McCain after Borling's plane was shot down in Vietnam. Borling also has a lot of experience in the area of the current major U.S. conflict.
I've kicked all around Iran. Before, just after the Shah abdicated in that interim period, and took the first F-15s to Saudi Arabia after Khomeini came in, the first Ayatollah.
And he's had an up-close look at the destruction that Iran has brought to the world.
We've endured 40 plus years of death to the great Satan and a hate index and actual killings of Americans all over the world.
Borling says he understands the concerns of those who think we invaded Iran for all the wrong reasons.
So it all seems quite ominous to so many people. And they throw wild accusations out. People trying to score political points, people genuinely concerned. You know, nobody likes war. It's almost that you get into it and then you spend the rest of your time figuring out how do you get out of it. It's a difficult proposition. They also tend to be necessary propositions, and I think we're at one of those historical junctures.
Part of it is like we're playing with a chessboard and we're using pawns and rooks, and they're using the whole chessboard because this is about their existence.
That's a good point, that when you come up to societal destruction as an option, a very real option, the side that's apt to be destroyed needs to take serious stock if it needs to change its way. There's nothing we'd like more than for the Iranians to join the responsible nations of people who may not totally get along, but can do commerce together, where contracts are respected, where the language is good, where you can talk face to face. You know, for years, many years, we couldn't even have diplomatic relations of any kind, even though we tried. And now apparently there have been some direct communications, but it's been sporadic, and a lot of it has been through intermediaries. And if they won't even talk to you face to face, man to man, if they continue with the rhetoric and continue with the actions, then the future for peaceful resolution can seem somewhat remote.
Borling is a writer and reader of history, and he likes to quote leaders of the past, doing so throughout our interview.
I like Napoleon a lot.
Yeah.
And Napoleon said 2 things that I've always remembered. If you're going to take Vienna, take Vienna. Easier said than done. And the other thing was audace, audace, toujours audace. Probably south side of Chicago, French accent, but it's audacity, audacity, always audacity.
Are you concerned about kind of the lack of allies taking part in this in Europe? They have not really gotten on board, unlike other previous wars.
I think it's a factor that needs addressing, and if you look under the bed sheets, you find out that there has been a fair amount of cooperation, basing rights, but I think there's been a reticence, certainly expressed by the administration, that we could use some help to get the straits open, escort duty, minesweeping, etc. And that's been delayed, late in coming. You know, going back to Napoleon, after he did his audacity thing and take Vienna thing, he cautioned always about one other circumstance, and anyone who's been involved in any of serious conflicts knows that you really got to worry about logistics. Logistics. Having the stuff, producing the stuff, getting the stuff there, using the stuff, and I think the investments we're going to have to make in our military posture, as referenced in the new budget that was just put forth, is going to be the norm for a while.
What's your message to soldiers out there right now that, they have to adhere to what the commands are?
I would say to the soldiers, I'd say, do your duty. Keep marching. And I have high confidence that they will. I spent 33 years commissioned in the Air Force, 37 if you count the 4 years at the Academy. I never had a question that the troops wouldn't do what they were ordered to do. And I never had a problem that I didn't think the orders were lawful. I didn't always agree with them. There's an old saying in the military, have no confidence in the echelon higher than you. It gets very real at the operational level.
You're a retired Major General.
Yeah.
In the 160 years after the Civil War, the first, 11 4- or 5-star generals were dismissed. Now in the last 14 months, 9 have been. Is that a concern of yours? Does that concern you at all about morale when some of these higher generals are being shown the door?
It is the perfect right and purview of the President and the Secretary of War and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs to look at the crop and say we need a change for reasons that some may think are wrong, others may think is right. But in the end, we're always looking for that combination of the wartime general, the patent, and matching up characteristics of, if you will, the peacetime or the administrative general or the diplomatic general, Eisenhower, Marshall, those kinds of factors. And when you get into a shooting match, it sorts out pretty quickly about who's got the knife in their teeth and who'd rather have the pen in their hand.
Orling sees not only this current conflict, but the country as a whole may be at an important tipping point.
There's lots of unknowns. Gosh knows I'm not here to offer a definitive thought. But I think in this 250th year of our anniversary, from a revolution and from the building of a society that has had no equal in the world history, that we understand we got to stand up on our hind legs and defend that, or we'll lose it. And if we're not tough enough, we'll lose it. I worry that we, as the descendants of those who gave so much to make America what it is today, must realize that at this 250-year point, it's a point where we're either going to have a renewal and we're going to keep going off into the future with all of the burdens and the responsibilities probably magnified, or we can just kind of evade and turn our backs and enter into that historical period of decline, if not total diminishment, that has affected every other major civilization in the path of history. And I, for one, say we have no choice. We have to keep marching. We have to demand excellence of ourselves and of our people. We need to be of good spirit. And there's nothing like a community like we have here in Rockford and here in Churchill Groves with the river over our shoulder and a almost spring day. We have so much to be grateful and thankful for. We just got to be tough enough to deserve it.
And Borling was released as a prisoner of war back in February of 1973. His book, Taps on the Wall, Poems from the Hanoi Hilton, was published in 2013 and included a foreword by his fellow prisoner of war, John McCain. Turning back to some of our other headlines here this morning, Rockford gas prices rising another penny on our Thursday, bringing the average gallon of gas to $4.27. Now, according to AAA, Rockford truck drivers paid more for diesel, this time by 6 cents, bringing the total of $5.25 per gallon. Now, over the state, gas prices also rose a penny to $4.42 a gallon, and state diesel prices increased 10 cents to $5.43 per gallon. And the average price of crude oil rising to around $100 a barrel. There's also declines in global stock. U.S. pre-market trading suggests investors might be wary, and the 2-week U.S.-Iran ceasefire deal appears to be on somewhat shaky ground. Now, many ship owners are indicating they're not ready to test it in that critical Strait of Hormuz. Dish Network customers have lost access to WIFR since March 10th. That blackout will last until a renewal agreement is reached. Dish customers no longer have access to CBS programming, and that, of course, includes WIFR. Dish demanded a new provision, and Gray says it violates industry norms and federal law. Gray remains willing to strike a deal without controversial provision, but warns it may pursue legal action for damages if the standoff continues. And if you are a Dish customer, you can help make sure the shows and news you love remain in the lineup. You can contact them at 800-333-3474. And WIFR is, of course, always available for free if you do use an antenna. And you can also see our newscast by downloading our WIFR streaming app for Android, Roku, Fire, and Apple TV.